So, before I spend 45 minutes losing my mind with you, I want to double check and make sure that it sounds good tonight. So, I'm gonna see who's commenting. If you can let me know, is the microphone working? I'm 90% sure it is, but I'm what do you call it? Paranoid. So, tell you what I'll do. Sounds good, says Mr. Bailey. Oh, what to do now? Because I've got so much to show you, so much to tell you about. In November, I was telling you that there was a police officer in Lynn Haven, and it was discovered that Officer McAlendon had a bunch of evidence in his house that was being foreclosed on. And included in this evidence were, I think, 5 Child Protective Team exam DVDs, confidential, 16 rounds of live 22 ammo, information on those Calhoun County permits, licenses rather, that the FBI and Sheriff Ford and police chief at the time, Ricky Ramey, were investigating after Hurricane Michael. I mean, all kinds of stuff was abandoned at a police officer's home. It was a big friggin' deal. It was found there. And so it was given to Commissioner Judy Tinder, and she contacted interim city manager Chris Lightfoot. I believe she actually contacted the current police chief, Steve Enfinger. And Enfinger contacted the city manager and said, holy smokes, there's a bunch of evidence that Judy Tinder claims was left at this home. And so they get it. They get most of it. And they decide, city leadership, that they probably ought to hand it over to the sheriff's office and let them do an administrative review on it. Find out if the officer did anything wrong, violated policy, or even the law. And within a few days, Sheriff Tommy Ford, directly involved, says, no, he didn't do anything wrong. I mean, it's within his job scope to have evidence at the house. So the city gets it. Lynn Haven gets it. And the Chief Enfinger assigns somebody to review it there as well, an officer complaint. Would you believe that within a couple of days, the officer was exonerated and there was nothing wrong? He did everything right. And as a matter of fact, those confidential Child Protective Team exams from 2021, he got them back. They just gave them back to him. Where are they now? Is that what you want? Where are they now? You're not going to believe where they are now. And I have spent a lot of time analyzing these reviews. And I want to show you tonight. I'm going to show you tonight exactly how law enforcement pretends to look into something only to really just cover it up right after this.
Strong, effective leadership. 3 words that could mean the difference between prison and your freedom. I'm Al Stallene, your Panama City Beach lawyer. 850-215-0628.
Don't let back pain and neck pain get you down. Find relief at Brown Chiropractic Center on St. Andrews Boulevard in Panama City. Dr. Sherry Brown helps people heal naturally with chiropractic adjustments and deep tissue massage. Call 769-3777. Right, and again, I am going to show you how to get, there's a big sale going on at Lynn Haven. I'm going to tell you how you can get Mayor Nelson's utility bills. They're selling them just $16.97. See, Mayor Nelson's been behind. And I wanted to find out about it. And Lynn Haven said, sure, we're selling it. We got a sale going right now. So you can get it too. You can find out if Mayor Nelson was not paying his city sewer and water bills while he was voting to raise it on everybody else. Just public records request, plural, public records request at cityoflynnhaven.com. Just ask for digital copies of all documents related to that. And they got a big sale going on. You'll be able to get it your own self. So the reviews. Bay County Sheriff's Office did a review on the evidence that was abandoned at Officer McAlenden's home that was in the process of being foreclosed. It was found there. And it was eventually was turned into the city. The city gave it to the sheriff. The sheriff did a review. The city did a review. Both of them found the same thing. Both of them said there was some property discovered. Property. This is how they framed it. There was some property that was discovered in the home. And it's from 2019 and it's from 2021. The Child Protective Team confidential CDs. Well, they're from 2021. The information on the Calhoun County licenses that were being given out illegally, that's from 2019. And the live ammo, 16 rounds of live 22 ammo abandoned in a foreclosed home. Sheriff Ford says this is actually just fine. This is normal evidence chain of custody stuff. All right. After all, they say, Officer McAlendon is the evidence custodian of Lynn Haven, and it's within his scope to have evidence. This was just discovered in October. I started to report it to you a little bit after that. So let's take a look at what's wrong. How did they, and what I'm going to show you tonight, you can use these same principles. And if you ever do a complaint against a deputy or a complaint against an officer, and the agency does an internal review, I'm about to show you how they frame things to come up with the conclusion they want, which is that it's cool in the gang. Let's begin. So what they did, the professional standards unit, and I have the report. All right, I've been studying it. See, it starts with how they scope and frame the situation. From the outset, the department narrowly framed the matter as found property. That's what they called it, tied to a domestic divorce context. They did not frame it as evidence mishandling, confidential records breach. That was not how they framed it. Child protective confidentiality issue, or a public safety issue involving live ammunition. And that's critical. Once an investigation is scoped and it's framed narrowly, everything else becomes outside the complaint. This is how they do it. And this is visible on the very first professional standards unit report page, where the incident type is coded as deputy misconduct. And that's in that box, deputy misconduct. It's not excess use of force or anything like that. It's found property is all, not evidence mishandling or record security failure. So this is super, super important. How they frame it. Why would Lynn Haven frame it as found property when it's confidential, when it's live ammunition? By the way, let me tell you about the live ammunition. 22 rounds. Sorry. 16 rounds of 22 ammo. And it was in a bag. And the bag was labeled Nanette 2021. Nanette? See, Nanette was an officer, Nanette Goodwin. And she'd left the department in July of 2021. So this was supposed to be, they say, evidence that she collected. She was the primary officer in a crime scene, and she collected 16 rounds of 22 live ammo. But it was in 2021. And by the way, the state attorney's office disposed of the case, and the live ammo was set to be destroyed. But it wasn't destroyed. It was tucked away and abandoned and forgotten about in a home that was being foreclosed by Officer McAlendon. And the sheriff and the police department and the commissioners all say that's okay. It's normal. It's within his job scope. We're going to test that theory. Let's take a look at, I've got 8 slides that will break this down for you. So this is classic, known as minimization by classification. All right. That's what they do. And do you notice if the police ask you questions and you give them answers, they say, well, how can we be sure that's true? We've got to verify, trust but verify. Well, they don't do that. They just, whatever the officer said is what they put down as fact. No checking. So this is crazy. So when they asked Officer McAlendon about 5 Child Protective Team exams and a flash drive, do you know what his answer was? According to their reports, his answer was, I don't think that was on those CDs. I think what was on those CDs is, I think these are CDs from 2010 when I worked at the Panama City Police Department and I bought drugs, controlled buys. I think these are all CDs of controlled buys. They're not child protective exam CDs. He didn't even know what they were. Just abandoned. Confidential records. And I want to make this very clear. Clip this. The commissioners who are ultimately, the buck stops with the commissioners and the mayor. They all know. They've been put on notice. I sent these reports, my analysis to them. I've told it to them at the podium. And 2 of them are government contractors. 2 of them have training on how to classify and how to deal with confidential digital records. They're trained on it. They're the commissioners also. They moonlight as commissioners. And they act like this is okay. They know it's not okay. And I told everybody to enjoy the holidays, and I'll get back with you on this. And I have. This is bad. Imagine how many other, if this is how they act. I mean, it was a pure happenstance that this stuff was even found. And about the same time, we learned that an IT guy had more than $50,000 of IT equipment in his home, surveillance type equipment, like a black ops headquarters. And only when Police Chief Ricky Ramey in August saw the writing on the wall did he call that guy and say, hey, I know you quit back in June, a couple months ago, but you know all that stuff you got in your house? We need you to bring it back. And he did. He brought the IT guy brought back more than $50,000 of IT equipment. Chief Ramey said, you're not going to get in trouble. And he didn't. 5 carloads. I asked public record request to Chief Lightfoot, the city manager. I wanted the video, the security video of the IT guy bringing back 5 carloads, more than $50,000 of IT equipment that, according to the city, they turned in a criminal referral to the state attorney, Larry Bassford. But after a long review, Larry Bassford's office said, can we keep some of this stuff? We could use it for our, when we spy on people and catch people for doing drugs. When we do controlled buys. State attorney's office said, can we keep some of this stuff? And they decided not to charge anybody. But at least the city turned it in and said, hey, we think this was grand theft. But Larry Bassford said, no. They did. So this is honest to God, what the state attorney said. I've seen the reports. State attorney said, look, man, the city didn't even know, Larry Bassford, the city didn't even know they was missing. That was the main reason that the state attorney's office didn't charge the IT guy for having more than $50,000 of equipment in his home when he quit, because the city didn't even know it was missing. Now imagine if you invite me over to dinner at your house and you've got some expensive Steins, from Germany, say, and you got a whole bunch of them, and I take a few and I sell them for $1,000. And you don't even know they're missing, right? But one day you realize, where the hell are those things? And you figure out Bernie stole them. And you call the cops and you call Bassford and you say, hey, Bernie stole my stuff. And do you think they're going to say, we can't prosecute him because you didn't even know they were stolen? Think about that. So all this happened around the same time. All this stuff found in people's homes. How many other officers? All right, let's get back to this. So, the Lynn Haven Police Department investigation repeatedly accepts the officer's explanation at face value. See, he said, look, man, it was when the old police station, we were moving to the new police station. And I put a box, all that stuff. I put it in my police vehicle and I forgot about it. Okay. It was in my police vehicle. I forgot about it during the move. And then later, no date. There's no date. Just later, I was cleaning out my vehicle at home and I found the box of stuff from 2019 and 2021 and put it in the garage. It's been there ever since. Forgot about it. It happens. And Commissioner Peebles and Commissioner Warwick and Commissioner Perno, they all say, what's wrong with that? It was within his job scope to have it. I got to tell you the truth about this. So I have heard from officials that this is the least respected commission in Bay County history. None of them are respected. Most of them are lampooned and laughed at. Aside from Judy Tinder. I mean, they're a joke, and everybody knows they're a joke. And on top of that, they're dumb. The only one who I'm certain is not dumb is Jamie Warwick. So I wonder why Jamie Warwick comes to the conclusions he comes to. Because he's not dumb. He has critical thinking ability. I know. Now, Sam Peebles plays the dumb blonde. And he's so good at it, I believe him. But I suspect he's a lot smarter than he lets on. He certainly knows the law. He certainly knows how confidential records must be handled. So I don't know why he's playing this game. Pat Perno? Confidential. So McElendon said, look, man, I moved. I just was moving it over, forgot about it in my truck, was cleaning out later, put it in a box, and somebody found it in the garage. All right. So the city says, we believe you. Everything you say, we believe. You didn't know the CDs were CPT exams. You were cleaning your car out, you left it. The person who found it said they were stuffed in a couch, but we believe you. All right. So now let's go to this one. In these reports where the law enforcement looked into law enforcement, there was zero independent verification. They just said, oh, okay. And even when McAlinden was wrong, I didn't know what was on those CDs. I thought it was controlled buys from 2010. No, they were CPT exams. There was no cross-checking. The people, Bay County Sheriff's Office, Lynn Haven, they didn't do any cross-checking with CPT protocols. They didn't do any DCF or Children's Advocacy Center rule reviews. They didn't check into duplication, copying, or dissemination. And that's a question I asked. I said, did anybody check to see if the person who found these CDs made copies of them? Now, these could be children disclosing God knows what. They didn't check if copies were made. They just gave them back to the officer. And the officer gave them to his private attorney, which is where they are now, because he is involved in lawsuits against him. And so I guess you use Child Protective Team exams and a notepad with notes, police notes. I guess he can just use those for his personal defense lawsuits. But see, the problem is CPT exams, they can't be used that way. They can only be used according to law in a public way, and they must be protected. And they must be, the evidence chain of custody must be very secure. But the city broke the law and gave these back to the officer who is using them privately. All right. So even when the investigator, who were from Bay County and Lynn Haven, even when they acknowledge in the reports that, yeah, CPT discs did exist, they weren't controlled buys, they actually were Child Protective Team exams. A thumb drive labeled CPT was reported but never even produced, and live ammo existed and was slated for destruction. There was no policy analysis, and there was no legal analysis. Credibility deference. That's what this is known as. That's the sort of logical fallacy. It's just, we defer to his credibility. Understand what I'm saying? Forget the law. Forget policy. We just defer to what the officer said, okay? That's what we did. We didn't have to check into it because we trust our officers. All right. So when they were looking into this, the way law enforcement covers up for law enforcement, nowhere did Lynn Haven, there's no citation to the Florida statutes law. None. There's no discussion at all of CPT confidentiality. No discussion of VOCA or Children's Advocacy Center rules. VOCA is the Victims of Crimes Act, because where this CPT exam took place at the Children's Advocacy Center in downtown Panama City, they get like $10 million a year from the federal government for the Victims of Crimes Act. And that requires that they lock these things down and protect these CDs, but they just fling them around. They don't even know how many. Tag this one too. Tag this part. 25 minutes and 38 seconds into the show. The Children's Advocacy Center that gets like $10 million a year in VOCA funds, federal funds, they can't tell you how many copies are given out of these very confidential children interviews. They don't know. They cannot tell you. They don't know where they are. They don't know if when they give out copies, how many of those copies are copied and disseminated. For what? Extortion? Why? What possible reason could they be doing this? It's a big deal. And I'm hot about it. And I told them I would be. I told them all after the holidays, we're going to readdress, because I'm a reasonable man, didn't want to mess up the holidays. No discussion of whether the CPT discs were ever allowed to be stored in a private residence. Instead, the report, it just concludes that there's no evidence. You remember all that? There's no evidence. There's no evidence there was any wrongdoing because you didn't look, because you framed it as found property. You didn't look. There's no evidence to support that the officer did anything wrong. What does J.K. Rowling say, the author? She says there's nothing like looking if you want to find something. But they didn't want to find Jack. I'm very familiar now with how Sheriff Ford's department deals with public records and this type of stuff. Very familiar, intimate. And evidently, Lynn Haven does it the same way. And nobody with state jurisdiction holds them accountable. That's where lawsuits come in and the feds come in. All right, let's get back to it. So, yeah, there's no evidence, they say. No evidence. We didn't look for it, though, but there's no evidence without ever defining what misconduct would be in this context. So, an investigation that never identifies the governing law cannot credibly conclude that there was no violation of it. Capiche? I mean, would you agree? By the way, look, this is fancy. I need to remind you so that we can, get the word out more. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. It helps get the word out. And even on Facebook, please do those things. And this is really serious stuff. And what I'm talking about tonight, it doesn't just apply to this. Anytime there's an officer complaint and they look into it, they're not looking into it. They're reframing it. They're rescoping it. They're just deferring to what the officer says. They're hiding stuff. They're not citing statute. They're ignoring it. They're violating it. Okay, let's see where we are. Here's another thing that they do. They are conflating possession of the evidence that was found in a foreclosed home, abandoned, with authorization. The Bay County Sheriff's Office memo repeatedly asserts that the officer's possession of the items was within his realm of responsibility. They even say it was reasonable. See, that's when I would go up to in early December and late November. I went up to the Lynn Haven City Commission during the meetings and I said, this is what you guys are doing. And you're saying it's within his scope and his job to have it because he's the custodian. Listen, the research and the people who I talk to, it's crazy. You're telling me that he's the record custodian for evidence. And think about this now. This is really important. From 2019, he can still have it. From 2021, his lawyer can use CPT exams Why are they in his lawyer's personal possession? That's so wrong. They can't be used for private use. These are serious crimes. These are not just policy mistakes. These are crimes. And I'm fired up about it because I know some stuff that several people know things that really it's not, the time's not right and the mood's not proper, but they involve these CPT exams. And I'm hot about it because nobody seems to really give a damn. They seem to really just love stacking up federal funding, is what they seem to love. To hell with the laws and the kids. Do you agree with that? Have you seen that? Okay, so here's what else I was going to say. This is the important part. I want to just logically think about this. I cannot believe that, and I've told them this, these officials, when they try and tell me, he's the evidence custodian. I said, oh, really? Does that work with people when you say stupid shit like that? That works with them? Oh, geez. Thanks. That explains it. Let's go with that theory. He's the evidence custodian. He's allowed to walk around with confidential stuff, live ammo that was supposed to be destroyed in 2021. Sure. He's allowed to abandon it in a foreclosed home. It's even worse that he's the evidence custodian. If he's the evidence custodian, how in the F did it end up in somebody else's hands? Oh, by the way, these reports that law enforcement did on themselves, they say that the person that found this stuff was just trying to make him look bad. That's what the investigators say when they investigate this situation. Look, the person who found the stuff stuffed in couches and abandoned in a foreclosed home, confidential stuff, live ammo, that kind of thing, just trying to make us look bad. See, this broad. And it's a good thing that we can't just send her to Chattahoochee. Damn, I wish it was still 1960. Then we wouldn't have to deal with this. Basically, that's what the report says. All right. So, yeah, they conflate possession with authorization. Like, oh, he's authorized in his job scope. Well, then he did a pretty shitty job. I mean, based on that alone, why is he still your evidence custodian? That's insane. That's more than insane. It's corrupt. It's not even incompetent. It's corrupt. It's a lie, and you're not that stupid. You should see their faces when I say, oh, really? Then how did the person you call crazy, how did that person end up with possession of it? Oh, now take your time. In fact, speaking to the mic. That's what we should do. All right. So, yeah, there was nobody analyzed whether the CPT materials could be lawfully retained after the case closure. They don't even know how many copies there are. They didn't analyze whether CPT materials can be retained at home. Of course, they cannot. Not in this context. They don't even know how many copies there are. Analyze whether returning CPT disc to the officer was appropriate. The city returned the CPT discs to the officer who gave him to his private lawyer to defend himself in lawsuits in his individual capacity, but as a cop. Evidently. How in the hell are those in the possession of a private attorney? They're for public use only. Can somebody run this down for me? Maybe take this information and notify VOCA? Oh, Bernie, this is all normal. I bet it is. I bet it is. All right. The memo substitute job title logic, he was an investigator, for custody law logic. That's so important. Okay. Where are we at? 35 minutes into the show. Put a pin in this one. The memo tries to, and they do this so often, government does. Well, the funds can't be reappropriated. I didn't say reappropriated. I said repurposed. That's in Panama City. It's another issue, Beach Drive. But here they do the same thing. Well, he's the investigator. He's got the title. It's not the point. The question is custody law, evidence custody law. Who's legally permitted to possess this and where? I don't know. I don't think they're that stupid. I just think they are that brazen. I'm talking about the investigator. When they really want to run something down, they'll run something down. So even the Bay County Sheriff's Office acknowledged the live 22 ammo. They acknowledged in their report the prior destruction orders. It was set to be destroyed in 2021, but it was sitting in a couch in the officer's house. Recovery after it was recovered years after it was supposed to be destroyed, disposed of. And all the while, the Bay County Sheriff's Office, Tommy Ford, directly involved in this. He was talking directly with Chief Enfinger. Tommy Ford made all the calls. The sheriff made all the calls on this. He assigned it to investigator Chris Williamson. And it was all about this. Just administrative clutter is all. Not an evidence integrity issue. Not that. No referral to FDLE, where he is the chairman of the Professional Standards Unit. That always helps. No firearms or evidence policy analysis. No discussion of third-party access risk. This is a serious underreaction to inherently dangerous evidence mishandling. But I have discovered that they do dangerous evidence mishandling involving guns and drugs all the time. That's Tuesday. So these were just administrative damage control investigations. These were not integrity investigations. Both agencies conflated explanation with exoneration, and neither investigation meaningfully grappled with the statutory confidentiality of those CPT exams, of child victim protection. They didn't give a crap how many copies are floating around. They don't even know. They didn't even concern themselves at all with evidence custody law. Hey, just some property was found by some broad trying to make us look bad. You know how these women are. The implications of the private legal use. The police just gave them back to the guy. Here, man, here's your copies of the kids. Is there anybody with any authority who gives a damn and will run this stuff down? Maybe go talk to them and say, hey, we need to talk about the law and about how you handle evidence, about constitutional rights, about the rules and procedures with all that VOCA money, that federal money that pours in. Need to make sure there's some compliance. Maybe we need to do a compliance analysis. Yeah, is there anybody who will do that? All right, so yeah, I don't even know if I agree with this part. There's no competent answer to this, and it's again, this is not simply. I'm taking that part out of my analysis. I don't agree with that. This is beyond incompetence and neglect. So these are some of the questions that I have after reviewing this for the last several weeks. And there's no indication on the reports about this at all. Did either agency make copies of the items found? So in other words, let's say you're tasked with looking into this. First thing you should probably do is put all the evidence in one place and not just fling it around, right? and probably, like they always do in an investigation, take pictures of it, that kind of thing. Find out if these are copies, and they did say the CPT exams are copies, therefore it's not evidence. But how many copies were made? They don't know. They didn't ask. All right. So we don't know if we do know that Lynn Haven, according to the reports, kept the ammo, kept the files and reports on the Calhoun County licenses, but they gave the CPT the most confidential thing they gave back to the officer, along with his notes, police notes, which are public records. What was on the flash drive? We still don't know what the hell was on the flash drive. How is that? That's a big deal. What's on the flash drive? No word. Just given back to McAlendon. And where are the CDs of controlled buys that McAlendon thought he had? He thought the CDs were of controlled buys back when he was working for Panama City Police back in 2010. Think about this. What purpose would a police officer have to have 15-year-old controlled buys where they maybe send a confidential informant out to buy drugs so they can arrest somebody, and they got video of a person selling drugs? Why would the police officer have a video of somebody selling drugs 15 years ago? I don't know why he thought he had those, but I can think of some things people could do with them. I mean, that's how people blackmail people. Where are the 22 rounds? How were they destroyed? Like to know that. No word. When I'm curious when the move was. When did they move from the old Lynn Haven Police Department to the new one? And the report says later, after the move, when McAlendon had the box of stuff, and later on, we don't know when, how much later on, he was cleaning out his vehicle, and oh man, there's a bunch of all this stuff's in there, so I guess I'll just stick it in my garage. No access control, none of it. And then just abandon it. Forget about it. So when did that box go in the garage? And why did the officer have possession of one of the CPT exams? One of them was not related to a Lynn Haven police investigation. And there's the intake number. Don't know who the kid is. Confidential. Don't want to know. But evidently, there's a bunch of copies floating around where people know. And I am curious, what's the name of the attorney that has all this stuff now in private possession, along with the CDs, the notepad? All right, so that's my analysis of the fakakta. Bay County Sheriff's Office looked into it. We exonerated the officer. He didn't do anything wrong. It was within his scope. I think I've shown you tonight why that's, what's the word? I can't even think of a word that really describes. Why would Sheriff Ford do that? Why would Lynn Haven Police Department do that? Why did the commissioners like Sam Peebles and Jamie Warwick, who are trained in their real jobs about confidential digital information, they know how these things have to be handled. Why are they acting stupid? Why are they saying, well, remember, it's defer to credibility. Well, the police said, the sheriff said. Yeah, but what do you say? What do you say? You as a commissioner can't just defer. You know, and you're liable. You're putting yourself in great jeopardy. Who are these kids? How many people have their information? What's being done with it? How is it being stored today? It's your responsibility, commissioners. You don't get to just say, oh, the sheriff said, the police said. You don't get to say that. It's 2026, baby. God forbid you as a regular person misplace something. All right, let me show you something else. So you know that I've been making a big deal because found out now that the mayor, Jesse Nelson, hadn't been paying his water and sewer bills. Switching gears. He hadn't been paying his water and sewer bills for months and months and months as he's voting to raise them on everybody else. So I made a public record request for it, and the city says for $16, Bernie, you can have it, but it's going to cost you $16. See, here's the invoice. For a very narrow public record request. So I figured, hell, I'll help the city. I'm not going to pay $16 to get that information. Based on principle, I'm going to let them keep stepping on their toes. That's what I was going to say, stepping on their toes. But if you want to get it, you can get it. All you gotta do is email right here. And if you do get it, send it to me. Public records request at cityoflynnhaven.com. Special offer. There's a big sale going on for Jesse Nelson today and today only. You can get Jesse Nelson's water and sewer bills that are behind that I'm hearing. Evidently, there's paperwork to support it, public records. I'm hearing that after 4 months, you'd go on a bad boy list. If you're late 4 months, you go on a bad boy list, and then they can turn your water off. But I'm hearing, can't verify it yet till I get the public records. Maybe you can. I am hearing that she would take his name off of it all the time. That got me thinking. About something. If it's true that Mayor Nelson would just not pay his water and sewer bill, because I don't think he lives in the house. How could he? Think about that. If he's not paying his water and sewer bill and it goes 4 months and he goes on the shutoff list and Vicky Gaynor takes his name off, then, do you remember about a year and a half ago when the mayor, Commissioner Warwick was talking about, hey, we really need to get a city clerk. And I think they should have a city clerk. They shouldn't have all of it in the hands of one person. They should have a city clerk. Should separate the responsibilities, which is the argument Jamie Warwick made, and he was right. But remember what Jesse Nelson said? He said, we can't have a city clerk because it is fact that throughout the country, city clerks, they're stealing. Remember he said city clerks are always stealing. They got all these ways they can steal. Holy smokes. Has Jesse Nelson, the mayor, been stealing his water and sewer from taxpayers? Like he doesn't have to pay for it, even though he votes to raise yours. Now, that's a big deal, isn't it? Bernie, I hate when you do this. The histrionics, the over the top, the accusations. Yeah. If he wasn't paying and Vicky Gaynor was taking his name off, was he stealing from the city? And was she an accessory to the crime? Tell me what you think. Again, this is how you can find out. I am not going to pay it. Ha ha, Bernie, because you can't afford it. Yeah, you got me. $16.97. You can send a public records request to this public records request at cityoflynnhaven.com for Mayor Nelson's utility bills, and you can get it. The evidence to find out about those utility bills. But if that was the scheme, if that was what was going on, well, Bernie, it wouldn't be that much money. If that was the scheme, then Mayor Nelson would have motive. He'd have motive to make sure there was no city clerk and to make sure Vicky Gaynor kept getting all those raises, wouldn't he? Because the little game going. Did city manager Vicky Gaynor take anybody else's name off? I mean, how much is water and sewer every year for average per maybe $300 a year, which is one of the highest. There are 412 cities in Florida. It's one of the highest of all cities in Florida. Mayor Nelson kept pushing that. He was the vote that pushed that rate up. He was the swing vote, and he wasn't paying it. So here's another thing. I told James Finch about this. I was like, man, I was talking to him about some of the stuff I was thinking about. And Finch said, do you remember when that son of a gun went up there and said, remember when they started the recall on Mayor Nelson, which, by the way, that vote comes up in 2 weeks. And Mayor Nelson was mad because James Finch had bought the airplane, rented the airplane that said recall Mayor Nelson. And the lawsuit and all of the witnesses testified in depositions, they all said that former city manager Vicky Gaynor and the city engineer Chris Forehand. You remember I said that Vicky Gaynor had told Forehand to come up with a way that James Finch couldn't get any road contracts because they devised a scheme where he had to buy a paver that was like, I don't know, $300,000 or something like that. Which, do you think James Finch could afford to do that? So Jesse Nelson goes up there, and he's up there, and it was a few months ago, and he says, I think if James Finch can afford to rent an airplane that says recall the mayor, then he can afford to buy a paver. And the audience clapped, said, yeah. Well, here's what I think. James said, here's what I think. He said, yeah, they pay the mayor something like $1,800 a month. That's like the salary if you're the mayor of Lynn Haven. If they pay him $1,800 a month and his water and sewer bill is like, I don't know, $300 a year, he can afford to pay his water bill. What's the deal here? See, this is why these things come back and bite you in the ass. Because the protection racket in Lynn Haven's gone. Police Chief Ramey's gone. City Manager Vicky Gaynor's gone. If you complained, if you knew that Mayor Nelson wasn't paying his water and sewer bills, and you mouthed off about it, Vicky Gaynor would send the police chief after you, and you could get in a lot of trouble. Well, see, now they're gone, and word's getting around. I'll tell you another thing they do with the public records in Lynn Haven. The corrupt so-and-sos. The big 2026 concern from a lot of people, you'll see, is the constant surveillance by Sheriff Tommy Ford and all of the police chiefs with the flock cameras that are all over the place, snapping pictures, compiling your comings and goings, making a whole profile about you. They are surveilling everybody, and it's wrong. So I made a public record request. I gave them my license plate number, Lynn Haven, public record request for any and all digital copies of any documents related that with search term that have my license plate. Sure, Bernie, for $23, you can have it. So we have to pay for them to spy on us. And here's what Lynn Haven's going to get itself in trouble for, and I can't wait because I'm going to push it. They think that there's no request small enough that doesn't require a charge. They're selling public records. No matter how small, they're selling public records. And that's why I'm going to help and become the best salesman they've ever had. And I hope all of you send a public records request to the City of Lynn Haven, public records request at cityoflynnhaven.com for Mayor Nelson's utility bills. If they had just sent it to me, I probably would have taken a nap. But the fact that they're going to nickel and dime everybody for every single little tiny public record request, now they've got me riled up. It's wrong. And let me tell you what's perhaps even more wrong. You're not going to believe it. So if you were on the commission and you voted or you're going to be voting on whether or not to fund the flock cameras, whether or not maybe you need to learn more about it, like Judy Tinder, Commissioner Tinder. She said, "What the hell are these things?" So she said, have you been getting my information? Hey, City Hall, she's a commissioner representing you. She says, I just show me what this is. I don't even know what this looks like, Judy Tinder. She said, show me what this is. Yeah, Judy, for $30 or whatever. What? Yeah, it's a public record request. They charge Judy Tinder. She has to have research to know how to vote. But the city treats Judy Tinder different than any other commissioner or mayor in the history of Lynn Haven. Prove it, Bernie. I sure will. I sure will. Look at this. This was an invoice that Judy Tinder got for a public record. Dated, let's see, November 3rd, I think it says, in November of last year. So just a couple months ago. And it was, she wanted information on the who was applying to be the city manager because she's going to be voting on that. They said, sure, give us $63. $63 they charged her. So I was like, they keep charging Judy Tinder to find out information from the city so she can vote for you. So I sent made a public record request at a meeting, and I said, I want any and all digital copies of invoices that the city has sent to any member of that commission since Hurricane Michael. How many commissioners or mayors do you think have been sent an invoice for public records when they need to look up stuff? There are certain things they can't look at. They can't look at HIPAA stuff. They can't look at critical ongoing criminal investigation stuff, right? But applicants for city manager, flock camera information on her? I'll tell you how many. Well, let's take a look at the answer I got. I got this answer from City Hall. And by the way, CJ is the person who handles public records. And CJ, my experience with CJ is she has always done a very good job. Okay, so if there's an invoice, often it's somebody tells her to do it. Jennifer Hodges, or Chris Lightfoot, or Vicky Gaynor, or whoever but CJ does good work, in my opinion. This is no reflection on her at all. So I just want to make that clear. So guess what? I got back. I want all invoices of anybody. And it says, attached is the only invoice we have where staff has charged a commissioner for a public record. Not a single sitting active member of that commission has ever been charged except for Judy Tinder. And Chris Chief Lightfoot, the interim city manager, claims that he is being consistent. How can Judy Tinder research and vote competently when they put up barriers? As she can afford that. That's not the damn point. Am I right or wrong? Jamie Warwick, Sam Peebles, Pat Perno, Jesse Nelson doesn't matter because he's not going to be there much longer, But you guys, this is your responsibility. I might as well just talk to these three guys real quick. You're a laughing stock. Nobody respects you. Nobody in City Hall respects you. The only one who has shown flashes of courage is Jamie Warwick, and he has. But the curious thing about Warwick is he's the one guy I'm certain has critical thinking skills, but he keeps coming up with dumbass conclusions, which tells me something's going on. But you guys, people right under your noses, they don't respect you. They think you're the weakest, most cowardly city commissioners in the history of Bay County. You guys should just leave. Every one of you. Like, just go. Pat, we love you at the restaurant, man. You know this. Sam, you're one of the nicest guys I ever met. But you guys don't belong there, man. Like, it's bad. Jamie, whatever's up with you, you should just call it a day, man. Get out of there. Whatever, if they've got something over your head, whatever's going on, dude, just step out. You guys are a laughing stock, man. And listen, I don't like saying this. I got a bit of a problem with Jamie Warwick. I guess I have to tell you why now. Because I don't take, these things aren't personal for me. They sometimes get personal for me. For example, the dumpster diver, Arthur Cullen, I used to consider him a friend. There's a lot of reasons, but there are very few like that I consider really bad faith actors. But right after Jamie Warwick got elected, and I helped him as much as I could. They really did him wrong, City Hall, when he ran for office. I mean, I even said I thought he had the potential to be one of the great statesmen in Bay County. And I mean, as soon as he gets elected, he goes and watches one of the hearings in the federal courtroom with Mayor Anderson. And he watched the city manager, Vicki Gaynor, on the witness stand. And she said all kinds of crazy stuff. She said she contradicted her testimony to the FBI to Judge Walker over and over and over. She told the FBI she walked in an office, saw Michael White, the city manager, having sex with the FEMA lady. That's what she said to the FBI. Remember, you can't lie to the FBI. And then she told Judge Walker that's not what happened at all. She clutched her pearls and she said, no, the FEMA lady was just slumped over when I opened the door late at night. Just slumped over on his lap. Like, that's better? Which is it, though? And I said, Jamie, you were sitting with me when she said that. I don't remember that. And then he had a conversation with me where he was, he's like, I can't believe you're siding with those ladies. Excuse me, I got like a tickle in my throat. And so what are you talking about siding with the ladies, man? Is it right or wrong? And so we kind of got into it. And then I heard some stuff he was saying, like trying to act like I'm making stuff up or something like that. So I got a little bit of a problem with Jamie. The other two guys I find to be super nice. Oh, goodness. All right. I think I got it. I think I'm a little late on the apple juice is what's going on. And by the way, that's about where I'm headed. That's what we need, don't we? A little vitamin C. I can't wait to get there because this has been an intense show for me. First of all, the new digs, right? Like everything's new and I messed up yesterday so bad. Oh, boy. You just have to, when you do this and you really screw it up, you can't let it get to you, man. You just got to say, man, the reason there's average is because some are real bad. Some shows are really good, right? But in order for there to be an average, some shows got to be really bad. Yesterday was really bad. So anyway, this one's been a little intense. But I wanted you to know how they're treating Commissioner Judy Tinder. They're trying to keep information now about flock cameras from her. Don't you believe that a commissioner should be able to access this information, inspect it at the city. They represent you so that they can make good votes or informed votes. Why is interim city manager Chris Lightfoot charging Judy Tinder and nobody else? Why? It's unacceptable. And I find Chris Lightfoot personally, and everybody who worked for him or with him says the same thing, that he's a really nice guy. But then I see this over and over and over. Unacceptable. Anyway, here's how you can get Jesse Nelson's public records.